I know we've only known each other for 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me, it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days.
All right, all right, all right. All my favorite passionate plant people and garden enthusiasts. It's time for the Let's Get Growing show, the Sunday edition of the Let's Get Growing show here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm your host today, and we've got a really, really great show for you here today. It is the third Sunday of the month, and that means it is monthly gardening book club time. That means we've got our good friend Marc Boucher Colbert here with us live on the show. He'll be joining with us here just a little bit to talk in the garden. And then a little bit here later on the show, he'll co-host with me for our monthly gardening book club, and we'll be welcoming Christian Douglas to the show today. We've got him here talking about his great book, The Food Forward Garden, a complete guide to designing and growing edible landscapes. This is a really great, great book here. And we've got Christian with us here just a little bit later on in the show. So you'll want to stay tuned for our book club today. Really, really great stuff. Really, really great book. And again, thank you all for joining us today, especially all of you fathers out there. Happy Father's Day to all of you fathers out there today, celebrating with us dads today as we're talking food forward gardening. So thank you for joining with us here today and celebrating Father's Day with all of us. And thank you to all of the dads out there. And hopefully you get to spend a lots of great, great, good time in your garden today. Thank you. All right, everybody. And like I said, we've got a really great show ahead for you today. And if you can, real quick here, you know the drill right at the top of the show. Let's click that thumbs up, hit that like button real quick, and subscribe, as well as hit that bell notification so you be notified of all of our upcoming videos and live streams here on the Urban Gardener channel. And be sure to share with all of your friends and let them know what we've got growing on here on the Let's Get Growing show, the Urban Gardener channel, all of that. Definitely let everybody know. And a big, huge shout out to all of you who are watching us on the replay. We really appreciate you taking your time to join with us here to check out these great conversations and talk about, again, too, this really amazing book here today, too. So thank you for coming and spending your time to check this out today. And if you can jump into those comment section right down below there and let us know you're here. Let us know what you got growing on. Let me know if you got any of your own favorite gardening books out there. I want to hear about your favorite gardening books. We're talking about, our favorite gardening books here on our book club. I'd love to hear about yours. So definitely, if you can, let me know in the comments section below as well. Also, for all of you who are joining with us here live too, thank you for being here and spending your time with us here on the Let's Get Growing show. But if you have any questions or comments, definitely jump into our chat, wherever it is, down below or over there or wherever. But jump in, let us know you're here, let us know what you got growing on. And yeah, if you got any. And two, one of the things we're doing too right now as well, or all the time anyways, is giving shout outs to channels and all of that. So definitely jump into our chat there too if you have a small channel as well, so you can get a good channel shout out. Our facilitator will put a link in for you here if you let us know that you got a great little gardening channel out there that you'd like a shout out for. Awesome. And questions, if you have any questions for me, our guests, or anything at all too, put those in big bold capital letters too, so I can see those questions from all the regular conversation and all the things going on in the chat during the show, and I can make sure those questions get asked of our guests. And definitely follow all those links down below too in our description for the show here. We've got all of our show links channel links, all that sort of stuff for our other social media, as well as links to our guests. And go follow those links. Go check out our guests and go support them and their content and all of that as well too. If you see any posts or videos or anything that they've done as well, go and give them a shout out and let them know you saw them here on the Let's Get Growing show. And again, too, links as well too, if you want to go and purchase our featured book for this month too, The Food Forward Garden by Christian Douglas as well. So get down and check those out as well. So right on, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. As I was mentioning yesterday on the show, I've been working and getting out there in the garden hard. I'm, working hard in the garden for sure. I'm always doing that, and but I've been really working at making sure I'm getting some things filmed and kind of trying to take you guys along with it. It has been my goal throughout the gardening season to put out more garden journals and make sure that I'm taking you guys along with what we've got growing on here in our gardens as well too. So if you want to check all of that out too, be sure to keep an eye out for on our video page for our upcoming garden journals. We just put one out just this last week or so ago, and I got another one coming out real soon as well too. This last one we went around and planted out all of our different tomatoes that we got from our good friend Adam, one of our moderators here, who came to the rescue with some tomato starts. So I got those all planted out and talked a little bit about local gardening community. So you'll want to go check out that garden journal if you haven't checked that out yet. And I just released the other day too our newest part 6 of our growing peppers guide that we're putting out this year, and it's talking all about our compost tea, or our vermicompost tea actually, where I show you our home gardening worm bins and all of the vermicompost and all of that worm castings that we've been collecting this last about year and a half or so now. I've been kind of doing this, and it's just been really awesome to be able to produce my own worm castings. And this last year, really all I fed, the whole garden all year was just this vermicompost tea, just to kind of see how things grew and how things went. And I didn't get off to a very good start at all last year as well too. And I was really happy with the way a lot of things turned out throughout the season too. So that could have been a part of the effect of what happened or not or whatever, but I thought it worked very, very well in our garden. So again, we're going to be doing that again this year, and I'll be showing you guys kind of how it works as well for all of our peppers as we're following through the whole pepper season, from seed all the way to seed. Again, as I was mentioning, talking with our guest yesterday, we're starting them from the seed that I've got. We're growing them all the way to collecting seed, and hopefully starting out some new plants from the seed that we collect, because we're going to also do some isolation and saving our own pepper seeds, maybe even trying to do a little crossing or something ourselves as well too. So you never know where we're going to go in this pepper growing series. So you'll definitely want to make sure that you're following along with all of that as well too, as we as we're growing along here throughout the growing season, especially with our pepper growing series. If you didn't get the chance to check out yesterday's show, though, you want to go back and check that out. As I mentioned, we had a great conversation with our good friend Farmer Greg Peterson from the Urban Farm podcast. I think Farmer Greg's probably one of our most repeat guests now, probably been on the show more than any other, but great to always have Farmer Greg with us on the show. He's just a great gardener, has a great podcast, the Urban Farm podcast. Always a great conversation with him. We got to meet Gray from Urban Gardening with Gray in our Are You Following Me segment too. And that was just a really wonderful conversation. I really love getting to meet all these new folks and these new channels and these new creators and people who are making content in the gardening community, through our Are You Following Me segment. And Gray was just really awesome. You'll want to go back and check out that show if you didn't get a chance to. And also last week's show too, as well. You want to go back. We got to meet Jeremy Trotsky from Dirty Punk Gardening, and another repeat guest was back on the show too. We had Yaz from MCR Urban Gardener over in Manchester, UK, with us last week, talking all about her alleyway gardens there in Manchester, and just a really great conversation, talking about some urban gardening for sure there. And we also had our good friend Gardner Scott back on the show finally. He skipped last month. He was with us just this last week for our Ask Gardner Scott every second Sunday of the month. So those are always great conversations. You can learn a lot from Gardner Scott, so you'll definitely want to make sure you come and check out those conversations with us on those second Sundays of the month for sure. But right on, everybody. We got a lot, like I said, lots and lots growing on. I hope everything's going great for you in your gardens out there. Let's jump into the chat real quick and see who we got hanging out with us today on the show. And of course, we always got to start off with a big, huge shout out to our good friend and facilitator, Jay Dixon, joining us from Midwestern Ontario, Canada. Thank you, Jay, for being here. Thanks for facilitating the show. And like I said, everybody out there, keep an eye out if you're here live with us in the chat for links and different further information on topics, all sorts of stuff. Jay helps us out with in the chat there. And like I mentioned just a little bit earlier too, if you do have a small channel, let us know about that, and Jay will make sure we get a nice link to your channel into the chat there for a nice shout out to all of you out there as well. So thanks, Jay, for being here. Thanks for all you do. Right on, right on. And my good friend Adam, I also just mentioned earlier about our garden journal and coming to the rescue with all of those tomato plants. They're growing along nicely. Thanks again, Adam, for doing that. Again, really, really great to have some good local gardening community. And it's great to have my good friend Adam from right up the road here in Central Point, Oregon, here in the Rogue Valley, Southern Oregon. Thanks again, Adam, for being here. Thanks again for the tomatoes. Right on, right on. Let's see here. I see we got David from Bowtie Life in the Garden in the chat as well. We've got Kevin here. Awesome, Kevin. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for being here. Crippled Cannabis Cowboy back in the chat again. It's great to see you again, man. Thank you so much for being here. So awesome to see you. Mobius. Great. Excellent. It's good to see all of you guys. It's great to be hanging out with everybody here on the weekends. Again, I've been thinking a lot about how fun it is just to be here and hang out with you guys and to be able to have all these really fun conversations with everybody on the show. And you know what? I was also thinking about this too. I got to mention, we are here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. I forgot this banner earlier. 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. British Standard Time. And all of you from all over the globe, hanging out with us, whether it's in the evening in the UK or getting up bright and early in the morning for the conversation with us, like our good friend Rick does from Australia. It's just really great to be able to hang out with all of you guys. So really, really awesome. So again, thank you all for being here. We got a really great show for you. Like I said, lots and lots growing on today with our book club. We're going to be talking with Christian Douglas here in just a little bit. But before we get to doing that, you know that we've always got to hang out with our good friend, Mr. Marc Lachey Colbert, for In the Garden. So we've got him here live. Let's hang out. Let's see what he's got going on. All right. Let's welcome our good friend, Mr.
Hey, everybody.
MBC, to
Good to
the
see
show.
you. Good to see you. Glad to be here yet again on a great Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all who are celebrating.
Absolutely. Happy Father's Day, yes, to everybody out there. Happy Father's Day to you, Mark, as well.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And we're gonna be fathered into the way of design by Christian Douglas today, man. He is This is very fatherly advice. I think we're going to get by a true master. So I'm really excited about today's book discussion.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful book. I can't wait to dig into all of this with our author this month for our monthly gardening book club. Really excited about that. And again, too, I also want to mention to everybody. I got to remember to mention these things at the front of the show and put my banners up, Mark.
Put your banners up, Enoch.
I gotta put my banners up. But when it comes down to it, I do got to remember to mention to everybody as well. You want to hang out towards the end of the show as well, too, because we'll also be announcing next month's gardening book club selection and author as well, too. So that's a good reason to make sure you stick it out, hang out, and be a part of this whole wonderful, awesome conversation and talk about this really great book.
The adventure never ends around here, right? It's like we barely get through 1 month's book and we're on to the next.
That's right. Again, too, I was like saying that our monthly gardening book club bookshelf is really starting to fill up. I mean, here, if we keep going, I might have to get another shelf going.
Well, when that image that you have at the beginning of the program where you have the books all stacked up, and when we began this journey last April, I took a picture of a bunch of garden books that I had stacked up, but now the stack is all the books that we've read and talked to. So it's it's truly become our own stack. That's awesome.
And as everybody will see for the introduction as well, too, I did the same thing in order to take the picture for the monthly gardening book club because we didn't have any books really in our collection yet. So that introduction is full of a bunch of different books that I just have. I'm gonna have to take the ones that we've done now and redo that one or something and make a new intro that shows all of the books and everything that we've actually done, because now I think we're on 14 going on 15 or something like that. Maybe some, I'm not even sure actually the number. I didn't really count to know for sure, but
it's like
we're up there now. This is really great.
It's another book. And I just love looking at these spines, the book spines on my shelf too, and thinking about really the special memory of the conversation with each author. It's no longer just a book, but it is a living memory. Somebody took the time to be with us and talk about their process in writing, talk about what they learned. Like last month, we were just coming off of talking with NC Tomato Man, Eric LaHoulier, and really just an absolute global expert in heirloom tomatoes. I mean, this is not something you just kind of chance upon every day. So it's like, that felt like just a great privilege to be in his presence and listening to all the things that he's contributed to, really our favorite, probably everybody's favorite garden vegetable, more or less.
Exactly. It really is. In all the conversations I've had, it's the top one for sure.
Yeah, but I think of these authors often, and I think of things that came up in our conversations, and I'm just grateful that we get this chance and that they're generous enough not only to spend all their time and lives writing these books for us, but then spend an extra hour talking to us and just making it very real and personal.
Yeah, especially Christian today. I mean, really, just he's really squeezing us in on Father's Day to come in here and hang out and talk about this really awesome book that he wrote and everything. So it's really great to, again, that they take their time to be here with us on in our little gardening book club that we've got over here. And we're so fortunate too as well, because of that sort of feature of our book club. It's not just let's talk about a book and get together and hang out. We get the privilege of getting these authors to come hang out with us to talk about the books as well, and that's just really special.
Yeah, we'd probably have a good book group if you and I just talked about it with with viewer comments. But it's a great book group because we have the authors. They really provide. Our job is to just line them up for the pitch, send them a nice pitch, and then let them hit it out of the park time after time.
That's right. For sure. They do too every time.
Oh, they do. They really do.
Right on. But we're here in the garden with Mr. MBC today.
Yeah.
And how's everything going and growing over there in your multitude of garden spaces that you have? I know things just kind of finished up as far as the school year, but I know you'll be tending and working those spaces and all that sort of stuff throughout the garden season as well too, right?
Oh yeah, I've been planting like crazy at school because we're kind of in this the June window, you know, where I have to get all the heat loving stuff either in as transplants. I still have some peppers to put in the ground. Uh, I was planting all of our corn. We at school we do popcorn and flour corn, so that's all in. I'm doing a polyculture kind of system, a three sisters kind of system. So the corn is there, and then I'm also planting the winter squash. After the corn's up for a little while, I'll be putting in the pole beans to wind around it.
Mhm.
So that is just go. There's no break in the action now. I turn, even though I'm sort of done with the classes part of my duties as a school gardener, I turn full force into being just a field worker for the summer. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
but I really
exactly.
love that. It's a lot of fun. And then we have a strange situation at school because I try to plan for a gap because, you know, we don't have a lot of people around, no kids around, no parents around. We usually do a farmer's market every week. So I try to plan for this gap where I try to have everything ready by early June, and
Mhm.
then a gap in the harvest, and then again we start up again in September. So it's kind of a strange garden because it doesn't have a lot of production right in the middle, but I'm working hard to make sure September is really full, really good.
Yeah, yeah, so they have something to come into class when everything gets started up again?
Oh yeah, it's got to be growing gangbusters when they come back. So I got to make sure that happens.
Absolutely, right on, right on.
And
And
you know,
they
I was just up at the Noble Rot, the rooftop garden. I know we're going to speak more about rooftop gardening because it's a part of Christian's book today. But
yeah,
I have a lot of containers up there, like
yeah,
what's called the number 5 container. It's about 4 gallons of volume of soil, and
mhm,
I'm giving them all what I call a spa treatment. So,
yeah,
you know, a lot of the containers have things like thyme in it. It's already flowered. I'm shearing back the flowers. I'm giving it a light nitrogen treatment, you know, a soak with a liquid nitrogen fertilizer. I'm
mhm,
putting in some plant spikes into peppers and things that I want to keep uh, flowering and producing, and you know, taking for the long haul in terms of phosphorus production. I'm looking for phosphorus for flower and fruit production. So I'm kind
yeah,
of giving the containers of my what I call a little spa treatment. They get a little loving care at this point in the season, and
yeah,
that really sends them into the next part of their journey here through July and August.
right on. What kind of peppers you growing up there?
Right now, I have just a smattering of different things. I have some you know, like Italian roasting peppers, Jimmy Nardellos, some of those big Corno di Toro peppers. I've got a couple of something like a Padron, but it's a Guernica. I think it's a little different.
Mhm,
Sometimes I just grab a smattering of things from the nurseries and stuff that I grow and
yeah,
just try new stuff. So just trying to give the chefs a smattering of things to have fun with.
yeah, yeah, so awesome too. Again, that rooftop garden is a really, great space up there and everything, and it's so cool. I gotta get back up there sometime with you real soon so we can check out the space. It's been a while since I've been up there for sure.
Yeah, yeah, we got our wings clipped a little bit this year because the roof's going to be redone. So we had to move.
Oh,
Really, we're having to limit our production. So
oh, okay.
it's an extra challenge to try to, uh, well, it's kind of an editing challenge. It's like, what's really just essential? Okay, what do we really need? And I got to make sure we preserve that in the
Yeah,
smaller amount of space that we have this year. So I can't afford to get as exuberant. And it's a great challenge to really keep cleaning things out as soon as they're done. Boom, get them out of there, something else in. So it's a
yeah,
fast turnover situation, and it's a nice. Sometimes constraints are really jumping off points for creativity. So I'm enjoying
right,
the
for
constraint, just
sure,
the
huh?
less space.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah,
You get really creative when you're limited with what you have to do with, right?
absolutely. You have to think kind of in a new way, or you just get rid of some of the excess that maybe was distracting for, you know. I think that's
Yeah,
part of our book discussion today too. This kind of idea of either a limited palette can create a better design. Actually, you know, it's more cohesive in a lot of ways. So looking forward to digging into that with Christian too a little bit. But I'm definitely feeling that right now. It's like limitation for success.
Well, right on, right on. Actually, I think that'll probably be a good segue for us here today. We'll just get moving on. I know we got Christian here waiting in the wings,
Yeah.
so let's just get moving on today, and we'll be right back here in just a moment or two, everybody, for our monthly gardening book club.
Okay. See.
Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits. Oh, hey there, Mark. We're back.
Hey again.
I got to get our screens right. There we go.
Oh, there we go. Now there's a nice background.
I know I got to get my banners and everything right. Again, too, I'm having a really fun weekend with everything this weekend for sure.
Enoch, I gotta say, you got a lot of hats. You pull us off very smoothly, but you're manipulating a lot of levers. You're like a puppet master of this whole thing.
Sometimes it can be really fun trying to make sure all the little things are working right the way they're supposed to.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Can't get it right all the time when it comes down to it. We don't have
I think we got a patient.
We don't have like all those other big shows, all the background producers and people doing all that sort of stuff, but so when it comes down to it. But anyways, here we are. It's time. It's time basically for our monthly gardening book club, Mark. So here we go. It's time for the intro. Like I said, having fun. There we go. And we got to replace those books in the background and get Christians in there too, right? We got this.
Oh yeah,
such a great book this month, right, Mark? Awesome. So tell us give me your review real quick before we get Christian in here.
Okay, so this is, I would say you can read this. This book goes two ways. You can use it as an adult gardener fantasy picture book. Like the first time through, I was just drooling. All the pictures tell the story. You don't need to read a single word. If you just look at long enough at the pictures, you'll get all the points. But then once you read and start listening to the storytelling, even the captions. I mean, I just was writing down a number of captions that I love. The captions are all punchy. We'll go more into that after, but they all have, yeah, again, I mean, you can read this on 3 levels. The pictures, just the captions for the pictures, and then all the text. And it's a classic on all 3 levels. So it's just amazing. It's a wonderful book.
Absolutely. Really great book. Like you said, I just spent a lot of my time as I first went through the book, like you said, just kind of perusing pictures and just kind of, you know what I mean? Just kind of dreaming about gardens and garden possibilities and all of that sort of stuff. I'm one of those types of gardeners too, where I kind of like a nice little design or a little look of this space versus that space and all that sort of stuff. So it really spoke to me really, really well too, when I was looking at a lot of stuff. And even though some of them were like these really cool, big, cool garden landscapes and stuff, I could really kind of pull out pieces and things that I could say, okay, yeah, I could see this working for me here, or doing this with this space or something too. So that was one of the things I really loved about just kind of that initial perusing, and just kind of going through the picture aspect of the book.
It is so rich. And, I think one thing that's really great about this book, one is that obviously it's centered on food in the landscape, which, I think Christian will talk more about that, but just often gets relegated to the back, somewhere out back, not really food forward. So bringing food into the landscape and showing how visually beautiful and rich it can be, et cetera, et cetera. And then the other thing, this is our first book that we've really tackled design. And this book, I think, really starts to make it accessible, takes a lot of principles of design and helps bring it to the home gardener, saying, because I think that's something people are intimidated by. Many gardeners are intimidated by this idea of design. They're like, all right, I can grow X, Y, and Z or whatever, but how do you put it all together? How do you make these cohesive wholes? How do you make these judgments to create something really beautiful? So I think this is like a great contribution to that as well, like encouraging vegetable gardeners to be more conscious of and try to implement design strategies that really make the garden hold together.
Yeah, we've gone to the Northwest Flower and Garden Show a couple of times together, and they have all these just amazing design gardens for their the exhibits that they have. And I think about that all the time whenever we're rolling through there. And we'll always point out something we'll see that's edible or something, when we're seeing it. But to have like a food forward design in that sort of thing would just be so really cool, because that's what I think about a lot as a food gardener myself, a primarily food gardener myself, is that, wow, we need more of that. And I think that's what really a lot of this book speaks to. It would be really to see more of that sort of stuff in those types of shows as well too, to show people that, wait a minute, we can see all these great design aspects within our landscape, but how can we work and incorporate food and edibles into those sort of things? I think is I think something would be really great moving forward in those sort of shows, because I think about it all the time.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, when we think about beauty in the landscape, food is not the first thought. And I think that you're correct in that you're picking up on the fact that even these top designers who exhibit at some place like the Northwest Flower and Garden Show, they're not working much food into it. And it just shows that there's a gap in our our imagination about how gardens should look, what beauty is. And, it looks like Christian Douglas is on a mission to change that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Christian, let's go ahead and welcome him to the show. We've got him waiting in the wings in the background here. Let's get Christian on with us. Excellent. Christian Douglas.
Hey,
welcome
Christian,
to the
how
show.
are
you? And that was incredibly flattering introduction. Thank you so much.
We're trying
the book.
to get you up for success here. Yeah.
I'm impressed you read it and didn't just look at the pictures. That's good. But thank you. Yeah, thanks for being here, and thanks for having me here rather. And
absolutely, Christian. I mean, really wonderful book, really wonderfully put together. And again, as I said, it was just really just fun to kind of just float through the book and all of these wonderful pictures and just think and imagine different aspects of my own landscape and all of that. But before we get in and dig into this really great book, though, too, let's get to know Christian Douglas just a little bit more here before we get started. And again, thank you too for spending your time here and joining with us here today to be on the show. And so give our audience and everybody else a real quick introduction to Christian Douglas, and tell us a little bit about how you got into gardening and how your gardening journey got started.
Yeah, thanks guys. Yes. So I actually, it's perfect timing being Father's Day. I'm actually not a father of a human, just a dog. But actually, my father is 84. I just chatted to him today. He's still gardening. He grew up during the war, and as a child with his father, and then as he raised me as a child, we had a community garden, and I gardened with him. So from a very early age, And he's still gardening now. We tore up his front lawn, his suburban lot. We put food on it this couple of years ago, and he was just telling me about how he's handing out 8 cabbages today to all the neighbors. So he has been a huge role model for me. And while I did gardening when I was really young in England, I then went off and studied design and became a landscape designer for many years. Still am in England. And I ended up working on some wonderful homes and estates there, more like walled gardens, big sort of country house scale. And then I left there and I went off and studied permaculture, actually not far from you guys in the Willamette Valley there, many moons ago. And then that kind of just shifted my point of view of landscapes as a resource. And I went off around the world. I got drawn to desert ecologies for some reason, probably because of my trauma around so much rain. Living in England my whole life. And then got really into desert ecologies and learning how to survive and grow food in deserts. It took me all around the world to many different places. And then I knew I didn't want to become a farmer. At some point, I knew that I had to go back to design, and I was not seeing many examples of it being done with food in a way that people could get on board with, and I wondered why that was. And so I ended up setting up a company to explore if we could make that happen, and we could integrate landscape architecture and food growing for the mainstream, for people to kind of celebrate and enjoy and kind of get on board with why this is a good idea. As we all know in this room, all the benefits that we get from growing food on so many different levels. But my goal was how can we do this in a way that we can get more and more people on board with. So here we are.
Yeah. Well done with the book and all of that too. It's just what a great way to kind of again, I think, you know, as I was just mentioning and talking about too, this show we go to in Seattle and everything, and just finding ways to get people to think about incorporating food into their general you know, landscapes, is it, you know, and doing things to create food gardens for themselves and all of that, I think is really great. And I think this sort of book goes really a good, you know, good ways to kind of showing people that there are just so many different ways that we can think about, you know, food and edibles in our landscapes as we're designing our homes, building our homes, or doing all that sort of stuff, thinking about that sort of things instead of just regular landscape design, which is great. I don't fault anybody who wants to garden in that sort of way and all that. I just think as I see more and more of these shows and go to more and more of these places, I'm going, man, I wish there was more edibles in these sort of things and all that sort of stuff. So I really appreciate you taking the time to put this book together to hopefully maybe push that message a little bit more further, and we can see more of those types of displays down the road.
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually just in Seattle 2 days ago for a book signing, and I was with Colin McRae from Seattle Urban Farm.
Oh yeah, Colin's great. Yeah,
he's such a great guy. We just did a joint signing there, and then I went to a tour of their rooftop farms, and actually we were talking about doing it together next year. Funnily enough, it's interesting you mentioned that, because they're trying to do a speaker series there. And you know, I love walking around the neighborhoods of Seattle. This is kind of one of my hobbies when I go up there. Is not. I tend to just walk around, like I was in Ravenna and I was walking around the neighborhoods there, and there's so much food growing on the verges and in people's gardens. I mean, there are fruit trees everywhere. People have little vegetable gardens. There are rabbits I could see. But I was really impressed by just the spirit of those neighborhoods and how many people are doing it. It's not always beautifully executed, but I mean, it's still producing, and that's a huge step in the right direction that I wish we would see in other neighborhoods around the country. But yeah, even some slight tweaks, I'd be looking at the landscapes thinking, gosh, what if they could do this or a little bit of this? Some of its minor adjustments would make a really big difference to just showcasing it and celebrating it a little bit more. But anyway, I'm just always impressed when I go up there and the spirit of community.
Christian, that's crazy, because I was just up in Seattle 2 days ago too, and and I went up with the express purpose of just going around the neighborhoods. We put our bikes on MetroLink and went up to University right around University Park District, and we biked back, just winding our way through neighborhoods.
Oh my God,
just
that's so
loved it.
funny.
So it's weird that we were doing that at the
That
same
is weird. I could have bumped into you. Yeah, I finished dinner and it's sort of 9. I was like, I'm just going to wander around these neighborhoods like aimlessly for an hour and just see what people are growing everywhere. So
yeah, you guys could have been wandering the same neighborhoods.
I know, it's like literally, that is so weird. We actually could have bumped into each other on the streets of Seattle. It's like, who's that guy taking notes about gardens and looking over gardens? I don't know. It must be some, I don't know. Who knows who he is? Okay, so here's my thing. You've got kind of two audiences that you might be speaking to. Probably the more common one is this audience of people who want to beautify their landscape and, you know, have a sense of what a beautiful landscape looks like, and the idea of like, let's incorporate more food into that. But the other audience would be more like me when I started my garden journey, which was just focused on food. I didn't care about ornamentals at all. I didn't necessarily care about the aesthetics at all. Make the argument for like a hardcore gardener who's just like wanting food to be there, that beauty belongs, or beauty is important, or the design is worth thinking about. Make that argument for us right now.
I mean, I think ultimately, I mean, I think if you're already a hardcore farmer / gardener, I mean, and you're already, that's what you think about, dream about, that you get all the seed catalogs in January, Feb, you know, you're making lists. If that is your life and who you are already, then I don't think there needs to be any major discussion. If that's how you get off and that's your thing, then that 10%, maybe 10% of people, it's a lower percentage of people that fall into that category. We're really looking at the group that kind of have their door like open a little bit, like a crack in the door, and they're kind of curious, but they haven't quite kind of taken the plunge. And then you've got the 10%, 20% maybe that just doors shut, bolts on, they're not coming out no matter what, right? So my permaculture teacher, Jeff Lawton, always said, you know, don't bloody your knuckles on doors that won't open. And what he meant by that was, you know, we get so excited about these concepts and themes, and it makes so much sense to us as to why wouldn't everybody be doing this? But the reality is that just isn't for everybody. We're all completely different. And I was trying to create a space in this way for people that weren't already like fully committed, and I'm already doing it, and I love it, and I know this is my path forever. It was more for the other kind of group, which actually is in a larger percentage, and so that's kind of really what a lot of our work has been focused on, is the people that have the door open and they're kind of peering out. Some of those will become hooked, and they'll be, you know, hooked forever, and that's all they now dream and think of. Most people are into it to a degree. They're not dreaming about it, thinking about it every single day, but they do enjoy it. They do use it. They do cook from the garden. They do show their kids and garden with their children. That's pretty much the market we kind of aim for. So I don't know how I would convince someone who was already just like, let's just maximize every square inch we've got on our 10th of an acre, and we'll just put food edge to edge to edge to edge. I support that, actually. If that is what turns you on, I'm all in. Let's maximize the footage, and let's just produce, and let's just production scale. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead, Enid.
Oh, well, I was just going to say it's just making me think in that sort of sense that there's probably just a lot of folks out there who, again, as it was mentioned, you know, people who are maybe buying a new property, getting into a new property, setting something up, building something or whatever, where, again, they're just not, there just isn't a thought of edibles within the landscape that they're going to put in around them. You know, they might look at a lot of other stuff, and maybe a lot of, if it was mentioned to them, would be concern of the work involved. I suppose maybe that comes with you know, handling and dealing with certain edibles and all that sort of stuff too, right? But at the same time, I'm sure there's just a lot of ways to kind of, you know, and I see through too, and just I don't know, easy, manageable ways of incorporating these sort of things into our landscape. So I think there's just some sort of barrier maybe that some folks have to edibles when it comes to just initial thought when they're thinking of, where am I going to go with this sort of landscape that I have, right?
I think you're right. I think what we've observed over the last decade is that, you know, and we all know it, vegetables take more hand-holding. We refer to the toddlers. And, you know, they just little and often, rewards are high, but you need to kind of be around them a lot. And all of a sudden there's too much sun or the weather changes and your cilantro goes to seed and then you're freaking out. And I think that we do a lot of work with perennial systems. So a lot of people instantly go to vegetable gardens, of course, naturally, because that is such high reward, quick high reward. But we focus a lot on the perennial system, so not full food forest layered systems to the full permaculture degree, but perhaps adaptation of that. So any kind of fruit layer, berry layer, herb layer, vine layer is a really easy way for people to get into it. I mean, certainly berries in particular a really easy gateway for people. And some gardens we've literally just done perennials. We haven't even done annual. Perhaps they travel a lot, then in and out. They just don't have the time, which is totally by us. So then we look just more perennials. And honestly, that's a lot easier for people when they're entering into it and they're a little worried about having that time. Because I mean, frankly, who doesn't love
good gateway? It's a good gateway then, right?
And the berries, particularly young families, it's number one. I mean, the kids foraging through the garden. We had a great example in the book. It's the first chapter, Homestead Harvest.
Yep.
Family moved from the city. Luckily, we'd finished the landscape just before the pandemic, so it was growing in nicely. 2 boys, 4 and 6. I mean, they just lived on that property for 2 years.
Wow.
And now they are so proficient with all of the berries, all of the food. They will literally walk around the garden and they know the names of everything. They'll pick everything off. They'll shove it in their mouth. And it's really fun to see. It's been a real proof of concept, actually, that there were vegetables in that garden, but a lot of perennials and a lot of hidden treasures. We kind of built a creek. Alpine strawberries are just around the edge of the creek, hanging into the water, and they go along and pick them. Little sweet candies, So it's amazing watching that and then seeing the proof of concept. And then from that, we're able to then keep refining our designs and kind of learning more and then kind of reacting to that going forward.
There's a lot of firms that are landscape design firms that are design firms. They just design it. There's design and build firms. And it seems like with what you do, the Backyard Farm Company, there's design, build, and maintain, because it seems like that final step is important to helping people keep the look that they wanted initially. And you mentioned doing a lot of education. What do you find gardeners need the most help with in terms of the education function and the maintenance function?
Funny, actually. Because the Backyard Farm Co, so our team, we've kind of changed the team around. It's changed a little bit this last year, but ultimately it began as a way of mentorship. And we were just design and maintain. We skipped the building. We have other people do the building, which is more uncommon. But I really saw clever design. So setting yourself up for success with clever design in terms of positioning, materials, circulation flow, and then coming in with a team of mentors, which were most of our team are former professional, organic farmers, and then coming in and doing the kind of gardening and growing, and then getting the children, parents out there, homeowners, to kind of educate them and teach them as a way of, like my father did with me, just kind of that handoff with the intent that after a few years we would become redundant. It didn't always happen that way, but I do think that that was a really important piece. And it's funny, I actually think in some ways, it's funny when I look at the whole spectrum of growing from seed to harvest, a lot of it is, definitely in the planning. I mean, succession is planting is a little bit more advanced, but it's actually harvesting. People don't always know when to harvest. I find that's, you think, it would be more obvious, wouldn't you? It's the harvesting that people get a little paralyzed on. We have to
Yeah, again, too, just on the sense of what I was saying is that there's a kind of a pushback. I mean, I find that when I talk to like folks who are working with like cities and municipalities and things, you know, I'm trying to push them to like get fruit trees and things like that. And for them, it's just all about harvesting. They're like, you know, we can't, you know, we can't set up a system to take care of that. You know, we can't figure a way to get those fruits off those trees and get them to places that they need to be. It becomes a barrier for them. So they don't want to, you know, have those sort of things, which you would think would be so beneficial to a city to have with all of the sort of spaces that they have available to them to do. But again, it comes down to like the harvesting when it comes down to it. Like there's work involved, you know, and we got to do that. But
it is a trouble at the civic scale.
But the benefits, I mean, what you get back though, I'm sorry, that's kind of what I meant to say. But look what all you get back from it though. So, I mean, you got to find a way to work through that barrier a little bit.
I know there's a level of skill to it. I think that there just has to be, I don't know. It's values. It's value driven. I don't know whether our local councils are always. I mean, I think there's altruistic ways, but I think when it comes down to it, I think it's trickier for that distribution and harvesting.
Well, you know, one of the barriers I see is just time. I just brought in a whole bunch of fava beans the other day from our garden, and I was saying to my wife, I love that I have this bag of fava beans, and now I have to devote the time to shelling them and preparing them. And so if you're not ready to put in some time, obviously you can eat a fruit out of hand or a snap pea out of hand right in the garden, but most everything else requires some amount of time at the kitchen counter. And if you're not willing to do that, that's the trick right there.
It's true. It's true. And we try and do the easier to entry stuff just purely for that reason. I mean, favas, you're right. It's like a weekend project and it's super fun, but the more I do this at this level and this scale, the more that if we can pick it and eat it off the stem branch, then so be it, the better it is in some ways. Sometimes our plant palettes can be narrow because I just want things that are just really easy for people. They are going to use it. If it's going to take multiple rounds of processing, then they're probably not, and therefore maybe that's not the right fit for them. But there might be someone who has a hand up. They're Italian. They love fava beans. I mean, Italian doesn't love fava bean. And then, of course, they're just going to sit there on the weekend, and that's just kind of what they did with their grandparents, and that's what they're going to do now. So the Italians are normally the easiest people to work with for that reason. any of the paste tomatoes and favas, that's an easy one. But I've noticed,
Right on. Yeah. Well, you know, ultimately, if there's anything really that's going to start, moving and convincing some folks who maybe are on the edge of some of those possibilities within their landscapes and all of that, is the idea of creating good garden design, though. You know, and that sort of thing, creating a visually appealing landscape that does incorporate edibles, and then maybe that is just, you know, that kind of, let's, you know, walk you into this sort of thing. Let's get this going, you know, plant some of these, plant some of those. Look how awesome they look in your yard, you know, and then now, you know, of course, you have to deal with that little bit of time, as Mark was talking about towards the end of it, but the idea that it looks awesome in your yard and really creates a visually appealing landscape has got to be a great way to, you know, kind of get people to step over that little barrier, right?
I think that's right. Yeah, I think certainly. Yeah, I mean, the perennials can do that all day long. They have so many virtues from blossom, leaf shape, form. I mean, it's all the same characteristics, but for ornamental plants, I mean, literally the same.
And there might be also lots of folks among these groups as well too that might, you know, as well, as much as we love to garden, you were talking about these wall-to-wall gardens that are just full of all of this sort of stuff, which are, in my mind, are awesome. I've got one myself, you know, but maybe a lot of people and folks out there too, you know, don't have that that isn't visually appealing to them. You know what I mean? A garden just to them in their mind looks like some ratty space of things that are just growing in all different ways or whatever. Who knows how they think, you know what I mean? So in some senses, that might be a barrier as well. I don't want to really garden because I don't like the way a garden space looks, you know, when I'm over at my friend's and see what his looks like or this sort of thing. So maybe a visually appealing landscape that's incorporating edibles is the way for those folks to garden.
Yeah, I think so. There's a degree of organization that helps to a degree too. You know, I went full deep into the permaculture world. So of course I went the full, I mean, everything from sheep mulching to, I mean, the whole gamut for years. And I kind of understand that. And there's this beauty to the chaos. Not everyone kind of sees that. But at the same time, I certainly do. It's a harder thing for the lay person to get on board with. But, you know, when we look at these complex, diverse systems of food and habitat, of course, and you see beyond and through those layers and why there is magic in that, then, you know, that certainly turns me on. I just couldn't, that wasn't something that could be used for just the general community. That's not what they were looking for. I tried going that way to begin with, and it wasn't working, actually. It was working for people that would do it themselves, and that was, but for people that were not able to do it themselves, they needed it to fit within a different context that they were familiar with. And so that's what we've been working on over the years, and that's what you'll see in the book. There's contextually, there's lots of different sites and scales and design sensibilities, and that's really what we would like. Well, hang on, can we do this like all? Can we do it in a wild native meadow? Can we do it in a more formal English city garden? Can we do it on a rooftop? Can we do? I mean, we were just thinking like it was just the can we? Is this? Why is it we're not seeing this as much? And can we do it? And so we work in all manner of styles, architectural styles, and just work within those contexts. We're doing a lot more of the native landscaping now, which is what I'm more passionate about. But in the early days, we had to just get what we could take, get what came along, and it mostly subversively. I would just plug food in when people didn't ask for it, and then over time we just built on that. And that's how it came about. I mean, people were not asking for it. I was suggesting it, and they were unsure, and then I would put stuff in little by little, and then I just kept building on it, until we landed one homeowner that was just like, I want it all. And then that was it. We went for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's talk for a minute about I was reading and looking at the beautiful, the 8 example gardens at the beginning with sort of 2 tracks. Like I'm taking away all kinds of points and loving it and wishing I could live in all of them. And then the other part of me is like, okay, this is looks like rich San Francisco people who can afford thousands of dollars to redo their landscape. Where does the basic gardener start? Like, what's the low-hanging fruit, so to speak? Some of your principles. How can people just like today, this weekend, on a budget, start to incorporate some of this stuff while still holding a bigger vision? Like I want to get to this bigger, but I want to just start with something manageable financially and timely.
Totally. Yeah, thanks for asking that question. I know, of course, this is, these books, these gardens are, not inexpensive, and, it's for people to be able to afford landscape designer is a different category. And we did want this to be approachable for everybody. And that's why we have our online class too, so that we can have something that's affordable for people and we can still share the knowledge. I think the design elements, and that's what I was referring to earlier about when I was in Seattle a couple of days ago. I mean, frankly, even using things like different materials for raised beds, perhaps just exploring that maybe something that connects back to the house. Maybe you have a brick house. Maybe you could use some like brick and stone beds, or maybe you like color. Maybe you can buy some ceramic pots that always kind of accessorizes a landscape. And in there, you could have a blueberry with strawberries around the edge. You need that shade tree, or you want to have a future tree for the grandchildren to put a swing in. Well, figs are perfect for that. So, when you're thinking about kind of all these different characteristics and things you need, we have a section called edible swaps, where you can just simply swap one plant out for the other. But also just even something like, you see a lot of gravel paths. I mean, that's fairly inexpensive material if you just want to put down a couple of nice looking pathways in a garden that are practical, but also look nice and slightly elevate the look and feel, and it makes it feel a little bit more just interesting. So there are lots of different small tips like that. People have balconies or apartments. I mean, definitely like finding some small trough planters, or like I said, just regular pots that kind of match your maybe interior space or exterior of the building. So there's just ways to accessorize and add food into the landscape. And that's how we often mention to people to start, on a really low budget, and you're just looking to kind of make some upgrades, and just start to grow something. Maybe it's just basil in a pot. Just make the pot really pretty. If you can only afford a cheap plastic pot, that's fine, of course. But if you can stretch it a little bit to just something a little bit prettier, then just do it. I find that when we do that, we tend to cherish it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And enjoy
I love that idea of starting with containers, because I think that's something everybody understands. Everybody understands a container, have them, and then maybe making that your little stretch point, and getting something a little nicer so that it really inspires you to want to keep going. You see the change immediately.
I think that's right. You see it immediately. My dad, he did, like I said, his tiny postage stamp front lawn in a suburban neighborhood. We just pulled up the grass and we just put in some geometric beds, kind of in a little bit of a formal pattern. It was very inexpensive. We just stripped it, dug in some compost, and just made some, like I mentioned then, some simple gravel pathways, just in a nice layout. And it looks really good. And it was really inexpensive. And we just got a truck and some soil one day, and we just kind of made it happen. And we just edged the beds. We didn't even use material for the edging. We just kind of edged it and just did a simple layout. And it looks really good. And then all of a sudden, he's now got some pea sticks, or some actually hazel rods. So we created these obelisks out of hazel sticks, completely free resource. And now we have these kind of 4 obelisks in the 4 corners. There's like an architectural element, totally free. And then we grow sweet peas on those. And all of a sudden, with a little bit of gravel compost and a bit of hazel, we've created this really cute little kind of potager right in the front of the house. So yeah, there are definitely ways you can do this without a huge budget.
Lots of
geometry too. So I work at a school doing gardening. A lot of times we just use stakes and string to kind of map out concepts and to feel how a space would feel. What if I put a path here? What if it were this wide? Okay, let's just hammer that out in stakes and see what it feels like. What if it were a foot wider? What would that be like? So it's just, there's a lot of low key ways you can model some geometry and start to see what your garden might feel different.
Yeah, I completely agree. Anything like that, anything iterative that you could just be out there, like you said, the string lines, even use mulch. You can even throw down some simple mulch pathways to begin with, just to kind of mark out the edges, and then just start shaping things up. Anything geometric like that tends to have a certain different look. Of course, you can go more organic, kind of mounds and different shapes, but creating some topography, I think, is always interesting in the landscape. Raising the soil up in certain areas, having lower paths, higher beds. There's something interesting about that. Again, very low tech stuff. So yeah, there's lots of ways, and hopefully there are some takeaways in the book, even though it's, like you said, Bay Area, relatively expensive gardens. Lots of mini kind of takeaways in there. I hope for people.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the things I was talking with Mark about before the show and all of that too. I was like, one of the things that was really, again, really wonderful about it is, you got all of these really kind of cool, if I could only have kind of just some really cool dream gardens. But as I found myself floating again through, as I mentioned earlier too, these dream gardens and these awesome, amazing pictures throughout this book of these garden spaces, I'm noticing and picking up little things, here and there. I'm like, oh, this would kind of look cool over here in my space, or this would look kind of great over here. And as Mark mentioned, it's the book's so wonderfully built, with the captions taking you through and into these different spaces and all of that, to help people pull that sort of stuff out of it so they can get those sort of ideas as well too. So I think the book is well built for helping people see and visualize things, even though we're really using some of these really wonderful dreamlike landscapes.
Thank you. Yeah, the captions we call them hard-working captions in this case. And that's an editorial term I'd not heard before. But yes, they were intended to have less text on all the pages. Each caption, you could potentially have as a takeaway. So rather exactly to your point. So it sounds like it works, because that was the intent with having hardworking captions, that you can look at a picture, oh, that's a pretty picture, and then the caption kind of details a technique we've used, or refers back to one of our core principles, and gets the reader to be thinking, oh, I see, I could do that in my place. Oh, I see, yeah, we're sharing the sun, and therefore, oh, okay, we could have that next to this and next to that. They don't have to be separate, whatever the principle was. So every time the caption wasn't just going to be like, this is in the picture. It was like the why of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna read. I just went and wrote down a bunch of these captions before we got on, because I'm like, this is some gold here, because they're often like real punchy 2-word design principles. I'm gonna read a few just to give people a sense if they haven't gotten these. And you know, these takeaways right here and now. This is something like flower beacon. I mean, that just says it right out. It's just like, I want to see flowers that lead me somewhere, or that brighten up something. Okay. Herb steps. It's like, I got some steps. I'm going to put herbs on the tiers there and green it up that way. Tomato tunnel. It's like, oh yeah, of course. Who doesn't want one of those? And then there's a picture in there that shows how it's going. Secret door. That sounds so fun. I mean, like a secret door. Let's do that. Tasteful tabletop. A color story. There's so many great ones. I mean, I think you should make a whole garden design deck just out of these 2-word things. I mean, each one is a design principle. So congratulations on.
Oh, thank you. That was the alliteration on that stuff was insane. I tell you, it was having to do headers for each caption was. There's 3 of us in here just laughing because we came up with the most ridiculous ones. But you had to just go over and over again. Yeah, it was. I'd like
the reject list. That in itself would be.
There was a big reject list, and then some were just got pretty rude at some points. But those got cut. But yeah, that was an added layer. But yeah, something catchy, something that kind of creates an image in your head, or something memorable. I mean, alliterations always tend to be memorable. So that was important.
It's the poetic principle. It goes right along with the beauty of the pictures, that, you know, it's like these little hard working captions are real. They are really working hard. They're working.
Thank you. I was pleased to hear
that.
One thing I definitely want to make sure we talk about, though, too, because this kind of goes back to mine and Mark's origin story in a way, though, too. And I like the idea too throughout the book, and especially in this section as well too, of utilizing spaces you wouldn't really think of normally. And one big one, which is really familiar to Mark and I, is the rooftop. I started with a little rooftop carport, you know, that I'd put some containers up on, and started growing and doing all that sort of stuff years ago. Started this whole channel, really, when it came down to it, was that rooftop garden. Everybody loved it so much. And then that ended up taking me to Mark's rooftop. He works at a rooftop garden in Portland, Oregon, above a restaurant called Noble Rot. So he gardens for them up on a rooftop up there on this building in downtown Portland, which is really amazing. So I had to go see that, and that's how I got to meet Mark and everything years ago. I think what we were saying, almost 8 years ago, I think this was.
Yeah, years ago.
So these kind of unutilized types of spaces, urban gardening types of spaces, is we're kind of really familiar with, are really great. Let's talk about that a little bit, the rooftop garden and these sort of unused spaces as well too, that we can look at for design aspects and growing edibles.
Yeah, this is the one that's featured in the book. Certainly, you know, rooftops, as you know, and Mark, you're working on them. I mean, we've worked on other ones too. I mean, there's a lot going on a rooftop. This one is in full deer country, so it was actually the only place we could really put something on this site. It was on a slope, and then it's great, right? Because you can keep it protected from from 4-legged predators, not the birds. But and then of course they're highly exposed. They tend to get really good solar exposure, which is great, but they can also get a lot of wind, as you know. And so they offer both. I mean, there's constraints and also opportunities for growing on a rooftop. This was actually, the roof was actually built at the same time as the garden, which helped a lot. We've worked on 100-year-old buildings here in the Bay Area where, you can't put a lot of weight on those rooftops. So you have to be very careful with where you put your soil and your planters. This was constructed with a very beefy subframe, so we could do heavier soil. So you do have to be a little bit careful when you're building these if you're using an older building. But this is a great opportunity for growing food in usually a really sunny environment. So we only have one featured here in the book, but we have certainly worked on others as well. And I know it's incredibly popular. Just visiting those ones up in Seattle recently. We've got a lot in Oakland and San Francisco here.
Yeah, I do like the fact that you mentioned talk to structural engineer, because there's a lot of people who just think they can throw any old thing up on their roof, and it could lead to some severe landscape architecture challenges later on.
Yeah, and drainage, right? So you've also got, water's leaking out of parts across a rooftop. This one we had a deck, so the water just went through the deck onto a roof that went down through, downspouts. So there's a little bit to it, but certainly smaller parts are completely fine, usually particularly around edges, but just nothing like too major. If you've got like an older building, it's good to know kind of where your supporting beams are. I know we had a disclaimer on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You definitely got to be aware of that stuff.
Yeah, but it's the same as a balcony. I mean, it's the same, right? There's a lot of people that live in urban areas or suburban areas in, apartments, condos that, still want to grow something, and it gets 5 or 6 hours of, direct sunlight a day. Then why not? I mean, absolutely, we should. At minimum, just our herbs, our culinaries, right, for the kitchen, just some of the basics. If you're in the right climate.
That's one of the values of that the chefs always talk about in terms of the rooftop garden being right there, is there's so much waste with herbs. When you buy herbs, they decay so quickly. So when you can be and the same goes for the home chef, when you can be harvesting your herbs right there and then, just at the a la minute, you can, it just adds so much flavor and vitality. You don't want to be pulling a bunch of wilted cilantro out of your fridge and be like, I guess.
I know, especially the tender stuff. You're right. The tender parsley, the cilantro, the tender herbs for sure. And they're so easy to grow. I mean, I'm in the Bay Area, although I've grown food in England, and I mean, some of that stuff is also fine. I mean, your chives, any of that stuff is pretty straightforward. You're right. I mean, there's very little excuse if you have some space and an okay climate to be able to grow most of your basic herbs, I would say. And they're easy, aren't they, to grow? They're pretty hands off. Although I feel like kitchens and culinary, we've worked with chefs. I mean, they need a lot of that stuff. They use a lot of it, so you need a decent amount when you're working at that scale for production.
Yeah, my chef, I worked with this guy named Leather Stores, who was the head chef at Noble Rot for a long time, and his word was his phrase was a meaningful quantity. If we were going to plant something, we needed to have a meaningful quantity of it in order to ensure that it was worth taking up that much space.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, for that level, you're on production scale, it's totally different than the home scale. But even still, you can. I mean, one rosemary plant can do a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked your 10 principles that you start with right away, and some of them are maybe not things that food gardeners would think about right away. So, I'm going to just bring out 3. One is like invite the guests, get the pollinators in there, do things just for the pollinators. Another is to take a seat. I love that. Make a sitting space in your garden, enjoy it, sit down, and then elevate the space, which I first thought meant the topography, which can be a good design tip. But you're talking about carefully choose materials that are going to be a little finer, a little nicer, a little something that's going to make you appreciate them more. So maybe you could just pick one of those and chat about it a little bit.
Well, yeah, the habitat or the pollinators, yeah, that one is just a no-brainer. I mean, we need pollination usually. I mean, there's a lot of self-fertile varieties of things, but it doesn't hurt to have, encourage pollinators. And of course, you're planting beautiful flowers that they appreciate, and as do we. So now we have a double thing going on. And so to me, just having that level of beautification and something that supports all of us is just a complete no-brainer. So we definitely lean heavily on habitat species in all of our landscapes. It's important, even if you're just planting some smaller plants within your bed. And it's just, again, it's very low cost, high value. So I think that's a great add to any garden. Take a seat. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just being able to sit in the garden. Even sometimes we'll make raised beds that are just at seat height.
Yeah.
And we might just put a white cap on it so you can just sit on. It doesn't need to be like a fancy seat, but if it is a nice seat and there's a little area and a table and you can sit and read a book or just kind of hang out and just watch the world or the garden grow or the bees fly past. It's pretty nice. So creating a destination is always nice within a garden. And then what was the third one?
I think elevate the space, elevate
space. Yeah, same like we talked about earlier, just designing a nice space using slightly elevate materials if budget allows. So just slightly nicer materials if you can stretch it, or even just some carpentry. I mean, I notice things like this, like some miter joints on a vegetable bed. I pick up on even small details, or any kind of accessorizing, like we talked about earlier, just some steel obelisks for your sweet peas. I mean, that goes a really long way, and those things are expensive. And just that garden ornamentation, things like that. It just when it elevates, we just tend to cherish it more, I find, in just most things in life. And some of that can just be natural materials. We could be foraging for willow out in the arroyo, out in the creek somewhere, and just create some nice kind of basketry. Not full baskets, that's a lot of work and skill, but certainly just some of those other obelisks. I think it's just easy arches over beds. You said the tomato. That stuff is pretty low tech and goes a long way.
Yeah, I love you started with the for one, the pollinators, which is a big thing for me over this last year or so too. Flowers, pollinators, those sort of things, getting into some more natives and things like that as well as I'm moving forward, has really been kind of a way for me to kind of look at my different spaces in more of a design or beautification type aspect. How can I kind of incorporate these over here, make this space look kind of nice as I'm growing all of these tomatoes in a row or something, and all these different things that I'm doing there. So I really like that. But the big one too for me is something I've done and started doing right from the get-go when I started finding out about how much I was getting back from my garden space, in that sort of reward satisfaction type of sense of things, right? So I started putting seats and little benches. I'd take a couple little bricks and build a little wood bench and set it right up in a spot over here on the side of the alleyway, so I can sit back and watch over here. And then I set up another seat over on this other side, way over on this way, so I can look back in this direction and see everything this way. And in the middle of the patio, got a nice big old bench seat, so I can just sit there and just kind of hang out, watch and enjoy and reflect and do all the sort of things that ultimately then gives us some, those are the huge big benefits we get from gardening. I love talking about all the time, and it really does come from I love that part. Like I said, take a seat, find ways in the garden to do that. And I really did love that part of that too.
It adds to the whole immersive experience of gardening, right? Because now it's sitting, enjoying, you're walking. Yes, it's gardening, you're still kind of like working. But then it just gives you other opportunities for just being immersed and just being amongst it, whether it was passive or active. It's nice to think about both of those things. We do that.
And you're planting the pollinators and you're doing those sort of things, and you're sitting back and you just watch all that stuff do its thing.
It's passive for you.
It's so relaxing and so enjoyable, and then helps you really get on with the rest of the day, right?
It's true. It's true.
I would say it's a tragedy if our garden just becomes a big to-do list. It will increase our stress that way. So find these principles that we can really hang on to, like take a seat. For me, it's hand watering. That's where I love to just watch the garden. I love being out there with the hose, like at dusk, and just like looking at stuff. You just note. To me, I once had, my little phrase is watering is watching, because when you're hand watering, you're just looking at the garden, and it's like the comes down.
I've thought about that in certain spaces, about whether I would put irrigation or drip. We talked a lot about that on yesterday's show too, but whether or not I would do that. I like hand watering for that sort of sense, Mark, is that it does. It keeps me, it makes me keep an eye on things in a sense. So in a way, it's hand watering is a sense of garden discipline for me. So I've pushed away in certain parts from actually putting in drip systems where it would be somewhat more beneficial. You know, I want to go away some days, you know, and do some stuff. But at the same time, I want to make sure I've got an eye on stuff, and I'm you know, I've got that constant look, and whether or not a pest is starting to, you know, take on some stuff, or something's just not working out in a space right. You know, there's all sorts of aspects of why it's really good to take that time that hand watering gives us. I really agree with you there.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
You have a really great section at the end of your 60 plus tried and true plants. I love that section. What if I gave you a little challenge of, like, you know, you're going to be on a desert island for the rest of your life, and you just can take 5 plants with you? I mean, the soil won't be totally deserty. It'll be
Like perfect soil.
Right, right, yeah.
What 5 are you going to must-haves, like must-haves?
Oh gosh, well, for me, yeah, let's see. Well, I'll break it up, I suppose. Well, for vegetables, for sure, I'd have winter squash.
Yeah.
Because they keep forever and they're just delicious, and you can make them into a million different things. Anything that I can preserve or keep, and I don't have to like harvest like immediately and use it within a couple of days, I'm a big fan of. So I am a huge fan of winter squash. So number one, that blueberries all day long. I mean, I could literally eat pounds of those every single day. Antioxidants, just incredibly healthy, and relatively, well, we won't talk about ease of growing on a desert island. We're going to assume everything's easy to grow.
Yeah,
right.
I guess what else? I would probably do blueberries and strawberries. I mean, those two I pretty much do in every single project. Again, just high value, constantly producing. And then I guess, am I too predictable to say an apple? I feel like I know, I just love apple pie. And so I also feel like they're really good at storing, and I would probably, like for months on end if I found some cool storage. And then I don't know, it probably would be a fig as my other choice, because now you can dehydrate them on the desert island under the sun. And then you can have these other preserved treats, but I like anything sweet. So in fact, I just picked out quite a few sweet things. In fact, you notice I picked out all sweet things and not I just realized that, actually.
Speaking of apples,
you know,
that's a great list. You can't go wrong with that. You put a picture of an apple in here that stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, yes.
Gosh, don't ask me to pronounce it.
No, I'm not going to pronounce it either. But
that was bloody hard to say. I'm trying to remember what it was. God, it was on here, wasn't it? I got it here.
Where's that? It's towards the back there, I think.
It was the it's the heirloom one, isn't it?
You list the name on page 236. I can't even.
Yeah, I think it's Russian.
Yeah.
Or that kind of.
It strikes me in two ways. First of all, is the dark red color of the exterior, which kind of looks like an Arkansas black to me. That's the apple I'd associated with.
Yes.
And then the crimson flesh throughout the whole thing. When you
this one here is towards the very, very back. Yeah, look at that. Get it on the camera.
Look at that apple.
Isn't it beautiful? I know.
Wow.
And it's better for baking. This one's better for baking than off the branch.
Yeah, that one caught my eye.
You're right. With the dark skin, it does look like Arkansas, but that red flesh, just beautiful. Really good for baking. A little tart, a little less sweet. But yeah, that's a nice one.
Yeah, I gotta try.
All right, yeah. So as we get moved towards the back there, you got a little part called Design Guide, and let's just read from this just a little bit here. You say, my food-forward approach to garden design centers on building an additional, namely edible, layer into conventional, tried-and-true landscape principles. By viewing food through the same aesthetic lens as everything else in the landscape, you can create cohesive, substantive gardens that are visually appealing as they are sustaining and frankly delicious. The truth is, anybody can stick edible plants in a landscape. The real test is whether you will interact with, tend to, harvest, and enjoy them. And then, as you mentioned here, a few more pages later, you talk about, and I'll have you maybe go on just a little bit more about here, is planting your palette. Choosing plants for any new project involves compiling a long list and then whittling that down to a shorter final selection. This is the time to imagine growing the foods you most enjoy eating. Start dreaming of edible species you would love to harvest for your favorite recipes. So, talk a little bit more about that design and planting for your palate.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, first of all, it just depends. So we always kind of check in with people about what it is they're excited to grow. So there's got to be some buy-in on that. People, they typically know what they buy at the store and they enjoy. So we try and narrow that down to begin with, depending if we're limited on space and sunlight. So we will just kind of select what those are, and then of course we're going to now fold in ornamental species as well, and I think we reference here in terms of refining our palette. So not one of everything. I think that's kind of can become a little bit of an error when you're looking for a more composed landscape, something more wild and more chaotic. Then all of that changes and it matters less. But when you're looking for a more composed landscape, then yes, we are just going to limit that palette. So we're going to pick some of our overstory layer of our fruit trees. We'll probably be looking at our berry shrub layer. And then, of course, ornamental grasses, salvias, pollinated species, even some topiary, maybe if someone wants it slightly more formal. And just the key there is there's always this tension between wanting more food in the landscape, but then also wanting to make sure that it doesn't feel too overwhelming or just it loses that composure. And so we're just always working with what the correct quantities are of each to make it feel and look as you walk into the space just like a regular ornamental landscape. In fact, at least 50% you're going to be able to harvest from. So it's just, I don't know how to kind of describe it other than that.
But really ultimately trying to also think about and incorporate those things that you're really going to want to use, you're going to want to put into your own food and things like that you regularly eat, so again, we were also talking just a little bit earlier about these ways of kind of guiding people into maybe adding and creating more edible landscapes, and maybe that's just through recipes, family recipes, or maybe things like that that they enjoy and they really like, and you can say, well, these have these sort of ingredients. It's a few different plants you could plant right outside here in a little kitchen garden, as Mark was mentioning too, about having good herbs right there by your kitchen and all that sort of stuff, those sort of things, and having them fresh and those sort of stuff like that too. So really, again, getting back to this idea that planting your palette is really a great way to get you into starting to grow your own garden, right?
Yeah, I think most people tend to know the things that they love. We send out a huge list, and we have a questionnaire to begin with, but it depends. Usually it's so connected to memory, it's so connected to childhood, parents, grandparents, intergenerational experiences. And so if someone came from more Middle East, Mediterranean, the pomegranates, the figs, the persimmons, things like that are going to be showing up probably and requested, and other people maybe from Northern Europe are kind of apples, pears, plums, things like that often reminds them of family dishes or just experiences they had as children. So much of that is connected to our memory and experience. So we try and kind of explore that and find that out and pull that out of people we work with first and just recommend that. But most of the time we kind of know once you see a big list, and that's why it's nice to have the 60 tried and true. And we also have the big index at the back too, which we want just so people can mark it up and just jog their memory. They may not have thought of certain plants that may do well in their area. And so that's why we want to have the big index at the back that you could just, I'd forgotten about that. Or, oh, wow, that's right. I was here, and we can try that out. So that was important to us to have that reference.
Right on. Excellent. Well, I know you got to get moving along here today, so I did want to make sure we get you going here. So you got one last question there for Christian, Mark?
Yeah, I do. So, Christian Douglas is the guy who provides inspiration for so many people for their gardens. But where does Christian Douglas go to get inspiration to be the inspirer? Where do you tend to, what do you look to? Where do you go?
Where do I go for my inspiration? Gosh, that is a really good question. I know sometimes I feel a bit low, my tank can feel a bit low on that. Sometimes we're just like creating, and it's like you do actually need to like feed that somehow. It's such a good question. For me, it's just usually just hiking and just walking around. I love architecture just in general. Heading back to Europe a couple times a year, I always kind of just look at new ideas and particularly anything historic I'm kind of into. And so just reading, but usually just being observant, and I'm just hyper curious. I'm always looking and paying attention, and then just thinking of ways of incorporating new things into our landscapes and our projects. And my home is in the book too, and that's something I'm really kind of inspired by at the moment. Is all of the native landscapes and all endemic plant species to the certain bioregions, and that is something which I am just seeing other people doing great work out there, and also just studying and learning more. And I think that's important for all of us to do more of as we keep going along here.
That's great. Great answer. Thank you.
Wonderful. Again, too, lots of great stuff. I didn't really get to talk about. I was going to mention too, I love the little part in the back here about grating garlic too.
Oh yeah,
it's really great. And the little other stuff that you got there. I'm just about to harvest my hardneck garlic, so I'm going to use some of it and try out my own first braid and everything when it comes down to it. But
bring it in.
Good little bit of inspiration for me here in the next couple of weeks, right out of your book here, Christian. And again, just a really great book, really well put together. Congratulations on such a great contribution to the gardening world here too.
Thank you. That's really sweet. Thanks so much for having me on. Really fun chatting. I'm glad that I'm glad you felt some inspiration from the book and wanted to talk about it some more. So I appreciate you both. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for such a rich discussion. And, I will say this as a final comment. The reason why we chose this book was I was at my local nursery and this thing like spoke to me across 30 feet. I was like, what is that book? I got to get over there. So that was the draw. So people, go get this book. This is a great book.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. And like I said, for everybody out there who are watching and you want to get yourself a copy of The Food Forward Garden by Christian Douglas, right down in the description below, I've got a link for you there so you can go grab yourself a copy of this just really awesome book. And really like I said, just really helps you really envision and think about the garden landscape in a whole different way. Really appreciate your work on that, Christian. And again, thank you so much for spending your time today to share with us about this really great book.
Thank you so much.
What a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
You got it. Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IV Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. IV Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year.
Okay. Something happened there. I knew it was going to happen, and it was bound to happen. And it was bound to happen at the wrong time as well, too. I was just warning Mark about this before the show and everything, too. But anyways, sorry. You guys all seen the breaks before. You know what that's all about. So let's get Mark back in here real quick here, and Let's see. Oh, what do we got? There we are. There he is, Mr. NBC. Can you still hear me?
Your buddy Charles got cut off.
Oh yeah, I know. Boy, oh boy. Well, anyways, everybody's seen Charles a million times here on the show and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I gotta figure. I don't, like I was telling you before the show. I can't. The reason why I can't figure it out is it just happens anytime throughout the show. You know what I mean?
It's the
Luckily,
ghost.
I guess it. Yeah, luckily it was during a little break there or whatever. Sorry, everybody there too, for all of that. But again, hopefully I'll figure that out. I've got an idea of something I might try working on. I'm just half afraid that if I do this, because it requires a software change, you know what I mean? That worried, like, okay, can I get things back to the way they were if I do this sort of thing? So again, too, we'll work on something down the road. But anyways, what a great book. What a great conversation.
Oh my God. Wow. That was
with Christian, right? Huh? Another
So-
one in the books here. Another great monthly gardening book.
I mean, it's good that he had a bit of a deadline and a place to go, because I think we could have worn him down with so much more talking. I mean, that
I'm
was
telling
so,
you. You said, you know me, I got all my markers in here. I'm thinking, okay, I just got to stick to just a few points here.
These poor authors, they don't know what they're getting in for when they get us talking to them, because we could just keep going on for hours and hours.
I know. It's amazing. I know.
No,
But
that
again,
was,
too, there's just a lot in this book. It's so full of just amazing, photographs and pages of just so much awesome stuff. That's really just a great, wonderful selection. I'm so glad that you brought it forward for our book club, and that Christian was able to be here with us too to talk about it, because again, too, really kind of talking to, as we were a little bit earlier, to the idea that gardeners are, as he mentioned too, gardeners we're already kind of into it. We're already doing things. We're already doing certain stuff. But really, I think design and these cool edible landscape designs, as he shows and features through this book, is a gateway for maybe others who not necessarily thought about gardening themselves, but want to have a nice beautiful landscape, want to have a nice plants growing around their homes and all that sort of stuff. So I think there's a lot of really cool, important stuff too in how we get out there and maybe encourage other gardeners to start joining the gardening community and get into growing and growing edibles and food for themselves as well too, and through making some really cool garden spaces.
Yeah, one of the takeaways that a quote that I love that he said, I think twice, so this whole aspect of design is about trying, in his word, to elevate things a little bit, to try to make things a little finer, maybe a little more geometric, maybe a little more focused. And, he said, when we elevate, we cherish it more. And I love that. I really agree with that. If you spend a little extra on a special pot, or even a special plant for that matter, or a piece of garden sculpture, or a cool little obelisk trellis kind of thing, you're going to love your garden more. You're going to be, you're going to want to care for it more. You're going to want to be out there looking at that thing, checking on that special plant, showing off your planter to somebody that you just designed that's got a nice, bright, flashy color. So I love that. We elevate, we cherish. So I think that would be my takeaway. If I could summarize this book in a phrase, it's like, why bother with design? It's because when we elevate, we cherish.
Yeah, that's really true. And again, too, really just such a great guide for looking at ways that we can elevate and cherish all of our great garden spaces and all that sort of stuff too. And as I mentioned just earlier too, get down below in the description so you can find a link to this really great gardening book. And so again too, there it is, another book on the bookshelf for us, Mark, and we're just cruising right along.
Well,
this
book, it's going on the bookshelf, but it's going to be coming off the bookshelf too, because this is like really a reference book, right? I mean, it's something these books, we're not sending you off in a terrible direction. All these things are very user friendly and usable. And I know for myself, it's like I'm investing in these books because I know I'm going to use them again. I know these things, just these ideas, especially with things like this, with design, ideas tumble around in your mind for a while, and then it might be 5 years from now, something like this is all of a sudden going to come into your mind because you've looked at it so many times, and you'd be like, oh, here's where I have an inspiration for this. I know I've seen this before like this. So I love it.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of as I was saying just a minute or two ago too, as we were finishing up, is that I'm gonna pull it off the shelf here probably in just a couple of weeks, just so I can figure out and learn how to braid some of that garlic that I've got coming out of the garden real soon.
So this
Great.
one, yeah, it'll be on the shelf, but off the shelf, on and off, on and off.
Just like a lot, like you said though, Mark, just like a lot of the selections that we're so lucky to have here on our monthly gardening book club as we are working and moving forward. And as we say, we like to make sure that you're all hanging out for the end of the show too, so that you can be here as we announce our next gardening book for our book club. So now it's going to be time to talk about what is our July selection for the monthly gardening book club. Yeah. Well, we've got joining with us for July coming up here this next month. We're going to have joining us Mr. Bill Thornus, author of Cool Season Gardener. Yes, Cool Season Gardener.
I mean, this
is a great time too, really, to be getting in and talking about this sort of thing. You wouldn't necessarily think that the middle of, or as we're just getting started with summer, as we're heading into summer, that we should be thinking about cool season gardening. Or actually July, we'll be in mid-July, so we're gonna be mid-summer. So that's about the right time to be actually thinking about it though, right?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I just seeded up my Brussels sprouts the other day. And, you know, pretty soon it's going to be the fall planting of kale. I got to put the beets and the fall carrots in real soon. So you have to have this in mind. You have to be thinking a couple of seasons ahead. And that's exactly what we're hoping for by featuring this book in July, that it will give everybody time to actually go and implement some of this stuff.
Yeah. And, you know, it'll just be even a couple of weeks after that, or even around that time, you can start seeding and getting things started and ready for, you know, the cool fall season and all of that as well too. So yeah, it's going to be great. I'm really excited about the meeting Bill and talking about this book with him as well too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Bill's a great guy. You know, I've gotten to know him over the years at the Northwest Flower and Garden Show. He's a regular participant up there, and he's always talking about something interesting. So I think it's going to be a great, even though, again, like this is another one of these books that's been out for a while, but just kind of Craig LaHoulier's book had been published for a while. But these things have some element of timelessness in them. And it's just good to, once you get a good reference like this on a particular subject, you want to hang on to it and keep looking at it.
And that's definitely something we want to be doing too with the book club, is, you know, also digging back to some of those old, really good books, like you said, that you can still pull off the shelf today as a reference and a guide for moving forward with whatever sort of thing you're working on in your garden, you know, and you know, and it's always great to get some of these great old school gardeners too. Craig was one of them as well. That's just wonderful to have these conversations. So I'm sure Bill's just going to be great as well too, just to kind of get into, you know, his gardening history and his experience as well with the garden.
Yeah, I can't wait. This is going to be a great thing, and I'm looking forward to how it's going to prompt me to rethink the winter garden a little bit as well.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. So definitely everybody, you're going to want to make sure that you keep following along with us here for the monthly gardening book club on our third Sundays of the month. I was just trying to look here to make sure that I get the date right here for July. It looks like the third Sunday is the 17th of July.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So that'll be July 17th, Sunday, the third Sunday of the month. And we'll be welcoming with us for that show and that book club, Mr. Bill Thornus, author of Cool Season Gardener, Extend the Harvest, Plan Ahead, and Grow Vegetables Year Round. So yeah, this will be a really, really great book. Looking forward to that one for sure. Really going to be awesome.
Yeah. And I think that this has applicability for all parts of the U.S., England, various other people, places where people are following us. I think there's very few places. And, one of the things on the cover is some of the season extension devices, even places with cold winters, with a little bit of modification, a little bit of building skills, you can create these cold frames and such to just protect your crops and have harvest all throughout the year. So that's really exciting. As gardeners, there's no, we don't have to go into complete downtime. We can still be eating from the land if we plan it correctly.
Yeah, exactly. Right on. Excellent. Man, I'm having so much fun this weekend. Having fun trying to keep this show together for one, but
You did a
but
great
all
job.
in all, it doesn't matter. We got together and we got to have such a great conversation like we always get to do here, which has just been so fun. So much fun for us here, especially on the third Sundays for this monthly gardening book club. So again, really, really awesome to spend the time with you here this Sunday, Mark, and talk with Christian today.
Hopefully a lot of dads joined us, but this is the thing that I want to be doing on Father's Day. It's a great way to up your game and really get a great conversation about something that we all love with somebody who's, a leader in the field, so passionate about design, so experienced. That was really elevating, to use Christian's word, for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, too. Another great book, another one in the books on the bookshelf for us here on the Monthly Gardening Book Club. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out with me and Mr. MBC here to talk all about this great book we featured this month, and look forward to, again, July 17th, third Sunday of July, and we'll be featuring The Cool Season Gardener with Bill Thorness for another of our great fun gardening book clubs. So right on, Mark. So awesome again to hang out with you and to talk all these wonderful books, but we do got to get moving along. And again, too, great reminder as well. Happy Father's Day, everybody.
Oh.
Happy Father's Day. I wouldn't want to spend Father's Day with anybody else, Mark, and hanging out talking about all of these great books.
It was a pleasure to be with you today. I really enjoyed my time. Always enjoy it with you. Thank you.
You got it, man. And we'll look forward to seeing you again real soon. Not just here on the Monthly Gardening Book Club, but next month as well, too, for In the Garden. And we'll see you then as well, too. Thanks again, Mark.
All right, signing off. See you, everybody. See you next month.
You got it. All right, everyone. There we go. Again, like I said, another great gardening book club in the books for us today. Got another great book on the bookshelf and another great book coming up for this next month on our third Sunday of July 17th, our monthly gardening book club. And I'll just show you all one more time, featuring Mr. Bill Thorness, Cool Season Gardener, the Cool Season Gardener. Extend the harvest, plan ahead, and grow vegetables all year round. So right on, that's going to be a great fun gardening book club. And again, too, jump down into our description below there for links to today's and this last month's featured garden book club feature selection, and get yourself a copy of The Food Forward Garden by Christian Douglas as well, too. So right on, everybody. I mean, again, too, so fun hanging out with you guys. This is such a awesome day here, too. I always enjoy getting to hang out with my good friend MBC live on the show as well, too. So again, it was just really great to be able to do that. Also, we've got to talk about what we got coming up as well, too. Got some great shows coming up for you here as we get moving on towards our summer season around here. This next week, we're going to take the opportunity that came up to do something that we've been having a lot of fun on the show doing lately. And we've had a chance to do a couple of times so far this season. And next week, we'll do it again. We're going to have a community show next Saturday where you, the audience, are the guest. So next Saturday, we'll do a community show, and these are going to vary too, whether it's a Saturday or Sunday. They just kind of going to happen whether the upcoming schedule kind of allows for them, and we've got to, you know, I want to kind of space them out enough as well too, you know. But when we get a chance, I want to get together with all of you who are spending your time hanging out with us here, and especially all of you who have small channels as well too. If you have small channels, Instagrams, all that sort of stuff, you're out there sharing your gardening with everybody out there, then come and take the opportunity here on our community shows to come here, jump on with us here, and talk about what you have growing on with your channels as well too. So great opportunity for small channels to get on and get themselves a nice, great shout out for what they've got going on as well too. So do that. And if you do know any small channels out there, for all of you who are watching right now, let them know, give them a heads up, let them know to come on and come hang out with us this next Saturday for our community show. You, the audience, are the guest. I'll share with you guys the show link, and you can come and hang out with us and come on live right on the show, hook up your video, get on here and have a quick little conversation with all of us here. It's something I've just really been enjoying. That's what this show is all about, is gardening community. And you guys are our community here on the Urban Gardener channel. And we love having you take part in our show, not just with the chat that you get to do each and every show all the time. You guys chat and have such wonderful, fun discussions throughout the show. You guys contribute such awesome questions and all of those things as well too. But these gives us the opportunity to have you guys with us here live on the show as well too. And then what we're going to do on next Sunday edition of the show is we're going to have a discussion with Alicia DeVore from Create My Garden. Is going to come and join with us. Last time she was on the show, she was talking about taking part of a program where she was learning to become a horticultural therapist. So we're going to have a roundtable discussion with her and her professor, Dr. Derek Stoll. He's going to join with us to talk about this upcoming profession of horticultural therapy, and really how gardens can really be a healing source for us. And it's just going to be just a really awesome conversation I've been looking forward to doing for a while now. So I really hope that you guys come and join with us for that conversation. It's going to be really, really fun. And now I'm also going to give a heads up. I did this yesterday too. I'm going to give you all a heads up for the week after as well too, because the week after I'm going to take a Saturday off. This just happens to be my granddaughter's very first birthday. So it's Layla's birthday and it happens to be on a Saturday. So I'm going to take the day off. So there'll be no show on June 28th. And Saturday, June 28th, no show, but we will keep the chat open as we always do for no shows. So the chat will be open for all of you who like to get together and hang out and just talk during this time anyways. So look forward to that on that Saturday there. I'm looking forward to hanging out for my granddaughter's first birthday, man. Oh, so amazing. I can't believe it. Just as we all know, time just starts flying by fast when it comes down to it. And also, too, that Sunday, we're going to have another roundtable conversation where we welcome back our good friends, Christopher Bransdahl, joining us from the mountains of Norway, and our good friend King Star, too, from the Pepper Lover community, and down there in the Lone Star state of Texas. So they'll be joining with us for a fun garden roundtable. And that gives you guys a pretty good, fun heads up of what we've got growing on here for the next couple of weeks. And we got more and more and more coming after that as we move into our summer season. So you'll definitely want to continue to join with us here each and every Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. British summertime for all of you joining us in the UK. And boy, it's sometime bright and early, I think 4 or 5, something like that, a.m. for all of you early risers over in Australia who get up and hang out with us as well too. So again, thank you all so much for being here. And if you can, before you head out today, click that like button, hit the thumbs up, and, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you can be notified of all of our upcoming videos. I've got new ones coming, new garden journals. We've got new videos in our pepper growing series this year, all coming up, and new shows coming out this next week. Be sure to share with all of your friends out there and follow all of the links down below for all of our guests, and make sure that maybe you go and check out some of their social media and all of that, and let them know that you saw them here on the Let's Get Growing show. All right, everybody, it's been fun hanging out with all of you here today. I'm going to get out, enjoy the rest of my Father's Day, and happy Father's Day to all of you out there who spent your Father's Day with us here. Really appreciate it. And I'll see all of you this next week.